Martin Sorrell, you more and more involved in China. You're one of the few large Western media companies that has access to the Chinese market. Do you think the success of China proves that the Western democracies aren't working?
Well, the irony about it, the paradox is state-directed capitalism is probably the system that the Americans and the British and others have embraced. I mean, we've got, for good or evil, a much more balanced approach in terms of regulation, or some would say imbalanced approach in terms of regulation and state intervention, interference. I mean, the strength of the Chinese system, others would argue the weakness, is its planning. I mean, the Politburo, most of whom are engineers, most of whom are extremely well wired. I mean, China reacts, it turns on a sixpence. And, when there's an incident in some part of China, and it's a vast country, we treat, structurally, our clients and ourselves treat China like Portugal or like Greece, which is a nonsense. I mean, China is 32 states and provinces. It's probably 1.5 billion people, not 1.3. We'll know from the census next year. So it's very varied, and it's enormous in terms of scale. China Mobile, one network, 550, probably 600 million people now, growing at 8 million a month. I mean, it's a phenomenally complex, it's not one country. So the system, the planned system has worked. We've seen this high single-digit, double-digit growth for many, many years, ever since Deng Xiaoping's speeches and before in 1985. So it's, I think, extremely well executed. I think it will continue for many, many years to come at relatively high rates. The Chinese have not become arrogant. There is much more confidence now than there was. Some people would argue there's too much confidence, but they're not basically arrogant. They still listen and learn. And the classic example that we discussed in our session before is Mayor Han, or the mayor of Shanghai, has been running a committee of 50 executives, CEOs from around the world every year, the IBLAC meeting, the Business Leaders Advisory Council, for 20 years. For 20 years, the Chinese have been bringing in 50 CEOs once a year to talk about, both in Beijing, because the mayor of Beijing does it as well, to talk about an issue that the mayor is concerned about. You write in, they look at what you write in, it's translated in Chinese, the whole bureaucracy turns up at the meeting, they ask you questions. I mean, it's phenomenal what they're doing. And the revolution, the economic revolution in China has had such far-reaching impact and is so strong and is so well managed. Now, that doesn't mean that it's perfect. It doesn't mean it doesn't have its faults. But if I look at the number of people that have been lifted out of poverty and the changes that have been made in the urbanization of China, and there's still a long way to go, it is incredible. Some people in America would argue, these are bridges that are being built to nowhere. These are infrastructure projects that are just projects there to keep people employed or employ people. I disagree. We have a lot to learn. It doesn't mean it's a perfect system, but it's a miracle what's happening. And we still in the West do not understand the scale and the intensity and the success. And this is a 200-year swing. 200 years ago, China, India, BRICS Next 11, CIVETS, however you want to define it, was 40 or 50% of worldwide GNP. That's where it's going to be again. China's already the second biggest economy in the world. It surpassed Japan this year. It's probably the second largest advertising market in the world. It's our fourth largest market. It's going to be an effort. We're $900 million of revenue there, 12,000 people. UK is 2 billion, US is 4 billion. China now is just behind Germany at about 1.1 billion for us. It'll surpass Germany, I think, in a couple of years, although Germany is growing quite well at the moment. It'll become our third largest market. Much more of a challenge to get to 2 billion. I'd love to do a big acquisition in China to take us up to 2 billion, but that's a very, very difficult thing to do. But very exciting. We still don't understand in the West, just to underline the point, how significant it is.